Okay, this is chapter 5, Transforming Learning with New Technologies. The learning outcomes are articulate the meaning of information literacy for teachers and students, explain search engines and how they work, summarize strategies for teaching students about internet information research and retrieval, analyze ways to evaluate online resources including Wikipedia, explain digital ethics, copyright, fair use, and plagiarism prevention, discuss ways that teachers and students can use technology together safely and in ways that combat cyberbullying. The focus questions are: what is the role of information literacy for teachers and students? What are search engines and how do they work? You probably know that. What do students need to know about internet searching? May not know that. How can teachers and students thoughtfully evaluate online information resources, including Wikipedia? How should students respond to problems of plagiarism when students use online sources? And how can teachers teach students about technology or digital ethics, cyberbullying, copyright, and fair use of information? Information literacy as a learning goal. The search for information increasingly centers on the internet. Well, we know that. If we're going to search for something, generally don't go to the library anymore. We go to the internet. And that is a 21st century skill. It's digital information literacy, working with information we found through electronic sources, and also media literacy of how we use media, movies, particularly YouTube, podcasts, things like that, interactive websites, apps, all these other types of things across a variety of media. And true proficiency reaches beyond reliance on Google and Wikipedia searches. So Google and Wikipedia are great, but we have other tools we can use, such as e-readers and e-books. Um, I don't know if you have digital books on your cell phones or computers or tablets or not. I have quite a few. Um, but does that still count as reading? Well, yeah, it does. Okay. Um, they're saying segmentation of multimedia may actually erode capacity for engagement with knowledge. Well, if you're going to sites that have nothing but glitter, yeah, that's true. But web can web use can build frameworks for online and print reading. And even though we don't have print reading a lot anymore, because everything we have now we can get online, particularly scholarly journals. They don't work. A lot of scholarly journals and magazines don't print anymore because it costs a lot of money. And in education, money is a big deal. So everything's printed online. It's saying ebooks show no difference in student comprehension, and they may have greater reach because it can incorporate multimedia and other elements, particularly audio e-readers and stuff like that. Becoming fluent with technology, information technology. Um, it says approaching technology as an expert would. Well, an expert's not going to go to Google. Okay, they're not going to go to Wikipedia. They're going to go to sites like Google Scholar, maybe, or internet databases that you get at your library, and find good scholarly stuff there. Um, we want to try to help students determine the priority of information. You know, Wikipedia is great. I mean, that's the first thing they do, Google Wikipedia generally. And Wikipedia is great, but it can't be relied on as a scholarly source because it can be edited. It may not be true. But a good Wikipedia site has citations at the bottom that you can go check out this stuff for yourself, and that's what you want to do if you're going to use Wikipedia. Connecting IT fluency to learn with technology offers way to practice higher levels of thinking. That's true. We like for our students to make mistakes, figure things out, and we love for them to say, let me try this. And if you're like me, I get a new toy or a new site or something like that, I'm going to fool around with it for a long time before I get the directions or anything like that, because I want to figure it out for myself. without anybody helping me. A lot of students are like that. Maybe you're like that in a lot of ways. So, search engines propel web information retrieval. Users customize searches using keywords. So, we know how to do that. We pop something in Google with just one word, and we generally get what we want. And those search engines are Google, Yahoo, MSN, Ask. They account for 95% of all searches. Um, but we have such specialized search engines like Google Scholar and databases we can go to, and they're narrow, more efficient focus, and have better access to the big thing here, and that's academic content. Conducting online information searches, the internet has transformed information research and retrieval into web information retrieval. So that's true. We tend to always go with the web, as I've said before, and we like to search as educators, search education sites. There are programs in Google coded to NET, Common Core Standards, and American Association of School Librarians. You can check that out. But teachers, a good one to use for your students is a thing called Google a Day, and we're going to look at that real quick here. And you just put in Google a Day and go to their site and start playing, and you're going to get different categories. Today is science, and I think that's geography or something like that. So it gives you a time. You would think you would just pop this in to Google and it will tell you exactly what it is, and that's not necessarily true. It's going to give you, I'm going to copy and paste this in, and you can sit here and look for this stuff, but it's really not telling you what it is and just here. So you got to look around and see. So you might think it's hydrogen, so you're just going to copy hydrogen and plug it in here and submit, and you would be wrong. So you can also get a clue, and that's not much. Then you can skip the question if you want to. And finally, this is history. I thought it was geography, but it's history. So it's a great what's called a bell ringer, and that's to have students come in and do this at the beginning of class and help them get started for the day and while they're getting situated in your classrooms. Electronic note taking. Well, traditional note taking is a multi-step process. Electronic note taking organizes and expedites the process. We can do that with browser tools and commercial software options. A lot of students here like to take pictures with their phones of the notes, and that's commonplace. There's also note-taking apps on your tablets and your phones that help with that. Google has become the dominant search engine, and we know that. And I'm not going to bother with this. Free text search examines keywords and descriptions, and again, we talked about keywords and match searches, Boolean searches that use terms like and or not. So you would say and is more restrictive or is less restrictive. Not is used to exclude certain words like war and not civil war. So that would exclude all resources of civil war. So I don't know why you would do that, but that's what that does. Those are called Boolean searches. Strategies for conducting effective searches with students. Again, there's all types of things out there. Google's Wonder Wheel is no longer. They've got some weird thing now. The Wonder Wheel was pretty cool, but it's not there anymore. Um, a lot of schools use NetNanny or NetTracker to ensure safe online experience. These are filtering systems that don't allow students to do things they shouldn't do on the internet. Um, Evaluating information. It's the quality of information. The quantity of information is great, but that does not guarantee quality of information. We know that. We can sift through pages and pages and pages of stuff and just find a few kernels of good data out there. Um, we have misinformation, malinformation, messed up information, and mostly useless information. And you've probably all been victims to these things, so I'm not going to go into those too much. Responses, we could do censorship, and that's a slippery slope to do with students because standards shift over time and norms shift over time. We can't, a lot of schools have filtering softwares, a lot of them don't. A Title I school with a low income district may say, hey, do we want a teacher for $34,000 a year, or do we want to get a filtering software? A lot of times they're going to go with the teacher. We do have partitions, and that's where we partition off a lot of the hard drive that only lets a student go to certain parts of the computer. And we can label things, and we have critical reading. And those are tools to read and evaluate content. Again, those are things that are found through Wikipedia, through Google. And there are a lot of good sites out there for those types of things. I need you to read about those in your book. Again, Wikipedia, more than 1.5 million entries and growing, is probably well over 5 million now. Built by web users, and this is the thing, there's no editorial control, and that's the problem with Wikipedia. You can fact check Wikipedia entries if you want to, and they have role playing encyclopedia development to experience complexity of the process. So that's where you go in and do a little role play and make your own wiki. Criteria for evaluating website resources: we have accuracy, authority, objectivity, currency, and coverage. Is it reliable? What are the credentials? Is the information objective and non-biased? Is it up to date? Can it be viewed without a bunch of bells and whistles and those types of things? We have the different URLs that you probably know: .com, .net, .org, .edu, .gov, .mil. It's pretty self-explanatory. The cognitive load. Okay, is there an overload of information being presented? Are we presenting too much information to these children? That can be a problem. Are the visuals used to enhance the text presented, or are they just there for fun? That can be a problem. Do the graphics take over the web page? Are there a lot of media techniques used? Is the information organized and clearly presented? Does the site meet the needs of visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learners equally? So we did the learning styles inventory last week. Does the site meet all of those needs equally? It's hard to do, and not a lot of people do it well, so we have to look at that. Okay, digital citizens and their responsibilities. Many schools adopt an acceptable use policy at the beginning of the year. They hand out all the papers to the parents, and one of them is going to be the acceptable use policies of the internet and the rules and consequences of breaking them. But rules do not teach what is appropriate or why. So that's what you have to do as a teacher, and you have to start teaching your students to be digital citizens, and things like copyright, the legal protection given by law to a person's creative works. Material is owned by its creators. Okay, the public domain materials are uh, ineligible for no longer covered by copyright protection. So if it's public domain, that's one thing. But um, now, fair use in education, we can pretty much use whatever we want as long as we're saying we're using it for education. Um, I made a lot of YouTube videos in my time, and I would use music. I would use different types of music, and YouTube would send me a nice email saying, "Hey, we're going to keep your video on, but we're not going to play the music because BMI, which is a owner of a lot of music, says that you're using their music." And I write them back and say, "Hey, I'm using it for education. It falls under the fair use." And they usually write back and say, "You can take us to court if you want to, but you'll lose." And I just don't have the time, so I find different music. And you can find free, what's called royalty free music out there and use that. Creative Commons allow authors to keep copyright while also allowing others to use. So there are ways to get around this stuff, but I generally try to find royalty free stuff. The next issue is plagiarism. Um, it's the web is a vast unregulated marketplace where information is readily available to copy or even buy. Okay, and when we have high stakes testing and misassumption by students, we get plagiarism. There are stuff out there, plagiarism checking services like Turnitin.com, and the one we have for Blackboard is called SafeAssign. So I would give a search, I would give a writing assignment, and it has to be turned in through SafeAssign. And I generally like to give the students the benefit of the doubt, so I will let them turn it in first and look it over and see what SafeAssign is saying, and then let them fix it if there's a problem. I don't like to do this gotcha thing. So I want my students to go through the process of learning to become good writers and being able to write correctly and paraphrase and quote correctly and stuff like that. So we have different storage systems. I'm sorry. We have different ways to ask questions, to construct answers, to stress citation ethics, and assess progress throughout the research progress. So again, that's what I like to do is have my students um, try first, go through the plagiarism process, and then write it correctly again. Now there's different things out there. This article talks about how I helped college kids cheat inside academic fraud industry, and there's things called academic paper mills, and you can go there and buy papers. And this guy was talking about his company called SchoolSucks.com. You go to SchoolSucks.com, you can literally get any paper you want